Hi, so I'm making a water boiler. Now there are lots of decisions you can make when you make a water boiler, but perhaps the worst one is to have a big old vat of water and stick your heat source underneath it. It's really inefficient. And they discovered this pretty early on in the days of steam, and steam engines, or rather steam engine boilers, divided themselves into two types. There was one type where they would heat the gases and flow the gases through the pipes to heat the water in intimate contact, so it was a lot more efficient. And the other way was to heat the whole area but have the water flowing through the pipes so that the heat surrounded the pipes. And again, that was really, really efficient. So I'm making a very similar kind of boiler, and what I'm going to do is pass the water through some pipes and heat the pipes. Now I'm going to heat the pipes using my heat conductive ink to make an efficient boiler. In order to do that, because the boiler temperature is actually going to go up to about 70 degrees or so, not much higher than that, what I'm using is ABS. ABS will stand that easily. It'll stand up to about 3 psi at about 90 degrees C without softening, so it's going to do fine for it. In order to do that, what I've got to do is paint an awful lot of ABS with my conductive paint. And now people have been telling me, the electroplating people have been telling me that they're having a bit of difficulty actually painting this stuff. And then again, there are a few strategies that you can adopt when trying to do it. The first one is to paint on an adhesion promoter. And there are lots of adhesion promoters because painting on plastic is done a lot, particularly in the car industry. So if you go down to local auto factors, there's a company called UPOL who makes specifically an adhesion promoter for painting onto plastics. So you can go and buy some UPOL adhesion promoter, paint it onto the plastic, and then paint your ink straight on top of that, and it'll stick to the plastic. Now I'm doing it a slightly different way. If you paint straight onto the ABS, all that will happen is that it'll can collect together, because the surface is obviously hydrophobic, so it'll collect together in blobs of paint, and that makes it really difficult to paint. So what I've been doing is painting onto my piece of plastic, like that, an amount of the ink, and it will begin to bubble off, as you can see there. So what I'm doing is taking a tissue and then rubbing it so that it's not too wet. And what happens is the water is absorbed by the tissue, leaving only really binder and pigment. So you're reducing the amount of water, and as you rub that over the ABS, it will actually make quite a nice coat. And that forms a primer undercoat. And all you do with it then is set it to one side and let it dry. Now, once it's dried, you can give it its next coat. And here's one I coated earlier. And as you can see, that has now stopped bubbling away and actually given it quite a nice coat of the ink. When that's dried, we can give it its third coat. And here we are with a three-coated piece of plastic. Now I'm just waiting for that to dry, so when that dries we'll carry on. Here it is after it's had a coat of its primer and then a couple of coats over the top of it. So if we measure the resistance of that, then that is about 330 ohms, something like that. So the technique was to rub the plastic over with the ink until the plastic sort of semi-dries, then leave it overnight to dry properly. Then paint your first coat. Now, in between each coat, you don't want to leave too long a drying time, and you don't want to polish it between each coat. So you leave about an hour or 2 hours until it's dry, and then you put the next coat on, and so on, building up the coats that you want. After you've got the coat that you want, then you just leave it to dry overnight, and it gives quite a good coat. Now, it doesn't adhere as well as it should do because it's plastic. So there are a number of things you can improve the adherence. You can sand the plastic before, you can use an adhesion promoter with it if you want, and that will help it literally stick to the plastic. But there we go, how to paint a length of ABS with the conductive ink. So I hope that was helpful to you, and thank you very much for watching.